anybody else. So Pierre Bourne has become one of the most iconic producers in hip-hop, producing tracks for artists such as Playboi Carti, Lil Uzi, Drake, and Trippie Redd, and producing diamond hits. And while being a successful producer, Pierre has also had a very successful career as an artist as well, but it has been over 3 years since Pierre Bourne's last solo major project. And with his new album Made in Paris being teased for months, it also seems like Pierre Bourne has just disappeared and honestly isn't working with a lot of the artists that he used to work with in his peak. But let's take a look at the overall impact of Pierre Bourne's career, the current state of his career, and what is next for Pierre in general. And now, growing up in Queens, New York, Pierre was surrounded by music his whole life, with his uncle originally introducing him to producing with the software Fruity Loops, and he would pursue his dreams, then moving to Atlanta for college, and his roommate in college ended up being L.A. Reid's son, which ended up getting Pierre a engineering job at Epic Records. And after taking his course in college, Pierre would build many connections with other artists, with one of those artists being Young Nudy in 2016, and also meeting Trippie Redd as well, with Pierre producing for both Trippie and Young Nudy. And with some of the notable tracks being Trippie's P's and Q's Beast Mode mixtape back in 2016, as well as Nudy's Slimeball projects. And I'm working with Trippie and Nudy definitely got Pierre connected to other artists and made him more known in the industry, because that next year in 2017, Pierre would be connected to one of the most hottest artists around that time blowing up in early 2017, that being Cash Carti. Now, Pierre and Carti would actually meet through K Supreme, a fellow producer who is also Lil Yachty's brother. So it's kind of cool how everyone kind of knew each other around that time. But basically, Pierre did give K Supreme the beat to what is now Woke Up Like This, an absolute classic from the SoundCloud era by Uzi and Carti. And after giving Supreme the beat, Carti would hop on that song. But Pierre was cheesed because Pierre didn't like it when other artists got on his beat without his permission. But then Carti would preview the song on his Instagram, and it was definitely gaining buzz for sure, as you guys can see. But this would then lead to Carti linking with Pierre and then Uzi hopping on that song, and which actually did lead to Carti wanting to make more music with Pierre. This song Woke Up Like This literally changed both Carti and Pierre's career, because at the moment in early to mid 2017, Uzi and Carti were locked in with Pierre Bourne producing majority of the tracks on Self-Titled. And it's crazy because Pierre would just casually cook these beats up, even cooking up beats in the back of his Uber, bro. The freaking dedication is actually crazy, and I feel like Pierre just doesn't get enough credit because of how insanely talented or how insane his work ethic even is. This dude Pierre literally made Magnolia in the back of his friend's Mustang while high, driving to Zaxby's. Yo, that's actually mad. And when Self-Titled would drop, it would obviously boost both Carti and Pierre's career, and also birth the iconic Yo Pierre tag.
Yo Pierre, you wanna come out here?
After this, every popping SoundCloud artist at the time in 2017 would have a hit with Pierre or want to work with Pierre. Just to name a few, Pulse 1469 by Trippie and 6ix9ine, Gummo, which was absolutely huge, which was originally supposed to be Trippie's beat, but yeah, that was a very messy situation. Thoughts by Trippie and X, Watch with Uzi and Kanye and Travis, and X by Uzi, just to name a few. And yo, his producing run at the time needed to be studied, bro. I remember back in 2017, you deadass could not escape Pierre's goddamn producer tag. Obviously, with Carti and Pierre being locked in that same year, Uzi and Carti would be seen a lot together, even announcing a collab tape, that being 1629, which obviously would not end up dropping, but a lot of these songs off that tape were produced by Pierre, like Cartier and Break the Bank and songs like that, right? But that same year, Carti and Pierre would be working on Die Lit, and the singles for Die Lit were actually insane. I remember when Love Hurts with Travis can drop, bro. That was definitely a insane time to be alive during the SoundCloud era, bro. In the same time period, the album would drop, with Pierre Bourne producing 90% of the album. And the album did get mixed opinions at first, but as time moved on, it definitely became a classic in the SoundCloud era. Even now, to this day, it is my favorite Carti album of all time. Pierre would then start his second debut of his rapping career. While I was editing this video, I realized that is cap, and Pierre was making music way before that. He was like dropping tapes and singles on SoundCloud, but his first official all platforms release would be the song with Carti, and he would obviously be featured on Die Lit a year after. And in 2018, a few months before dropping Die Lit, Pierre would drop Hack My Instagram and Honeyberry, which are both to this day fan favorites. Pierre Bourne was definitely gaining buzz for sure, but that next year in 2019 would be a huge year for Pierre working with Kanye for his Jesus Is King album, and Pierre would be like, you know, again locked in with Carti working on his new album Whole Lotta Red, which fun fact was originally dubbed as Die Lit 2, but I'm glad that that shit didn't happen, or else we definitely would have not seen the crazy evolution of Carti after that. But Pierre would also go back to his roots, dropping that album with Nudie, that being Salai Mir. Looking back on it, it was definitely a like, you know, classic, bro. Like I remember that song Extendo, bro. Oh my god, that shit went crazy back in the day. Also, Pizzy Pamper aka Kid Cudi was supposed to be on this album, which obviously with the sample not being cleared, it didn't. But yo, around that time, Pierre would drop his debut album as the artist, that being T-Lot 4, which is still said by a lot of fans that it is his like best album. Honestly, I definitely have to freaking agree, bro, because songs like Poof, Guillotine, and Juice are still tracks that I play to this day. And hearing Pierre flow on his own beats, which were super smooth and like super video gamey in a way, was just so fire to see. After T-Lot 4, Pierre and Carti would still be locked in for Whole Lotta Red V1, with Pierre producing a lot of the like songs on this version, that being Plays, Cancun, Molly. And remember the song Pissy Pamper? Some dude would upload it on Spotify, and that went #1, being a freaking unofficial goddamn leak, bro. Like that shit is actually crazy and just goes to show how much hype that song had at the freaking time, bro. Like, bro, you deadass couldn't escape Brooklyn Nets bench Pissy Pamper memes in summer 2019, bro. It was a W time to be like alive. And a bunch of Whole Lotta Red songs would leak around this time, and a bunch of lies would also be told by Carti, with Carti saying that the like album is dropping in 60 days, saying it's like dropping on fucking Monday. Basically, after V1 Whole Lotta Red was scrapped, I'm sure you guys do know that V2 was his baby voice, and Carti was also working with other producers like Richie and Jetson Made. Ironbreed dropped freaking Etme in like April 2020, and it got absolutely freaking clowned. And then Drake would drop Pain 1993, which was originally made for Whole Lotta Red V1, and it had a whole different freaking Carti like verse. It like wasn't baby voice, it was Die Lit Cash Carti era. But then Ian Connor made bro switch it up. Like, bro, why, bro? Around the Whole Lotta Red rollout, Pierre would drop the deluxe to T-Lot 4, and then obviously be producing more hits like the Grinch off of A Love Letter to 4 by Trippie, also be featured on Trippie's project A Love Letter to 4 on the song M's with Yachty, which was definitely underrated for sure. And Carti would then start the rollout for V3 Whole Lotta Red, and it was fucking completely different to any other Carti that we've like ever seen. Obviously, Carti did change his sound, change his aesthetic. He was no longer Cash Carti, he was freaking Bam Carti now, bruh. And Carti would be working with producers like Starboy, Out of Town, Filthy, and being on more rage bouncy beats rather than the beats that he used to work with Pierre. Whole Lotta Red would then drop after years of waiting, but then Pierre would only produce on 2 of these songs, that being Place and I Love You, I Hate You. Seems like Pierre and Carti in general kind of went distant. On Whole Lotta Red, Carti even mentioned that he was trying to sign Pierre to Opium. I mean, I'm not sure if it was as a producer or as an artist, probably a like artist, bro. But yo, imagine how that shit would have freaking played out, bro. And that next year in 2021 would again be a big year for Pierre, dropping T-Lot 5, and he was also growing his label, that being Sauce House Records, having artists Chavo and Shark being signed, but that label kind of fell apart, which I will get into. But T-Lot 5 would be a solid album from that year, and we obviously would get the last official Pierre and Carti collab on a song, and this project definitely showed Pierre's evolution as the artist. Like, I remember hearing Hulu and 42 for the like first time, and I was like, yo, this shit is actually fucking hard. And this album would definitely push Pierre as the artist, with Drunken Nasty blowing up on TikTok still being his biggest song to this day. But that same year, T-Lot 5 would drop. Pierre's relationship with other artists that he used to work with back in the day was getting a little rocky. First of all, Pierre wasn't on good terms with the Opium label, with Carti would drop his music video to his song Sky the same day as Pierre would drop his to his song Hulu. And yeah, Pierre kind of took it personally on his like, you know, Twitter. And also on Twitter, Twitter, Pierre would go back and forth with Opium Baby, with Opium Baby saying that he had to beg Carti to get Pierre in the freaking studio. Nah, that's crazy. And he'd also be beefing with Trippie the year prior because apparently Pierre did charge Trippie $90K for a beat, and because Pierre and Trippie go all the way back, Trippie was kind of disrespected, obviously.
Niggas always forget where they came from. Niggas forget where they come from. Wanna charge their homies $80,000 for beats now. Like, y'all niggas is corny.
But then Pierre would at least cater to his own fan base when it, like, you know, came to dropping his own music, dropping girls like IG Hoes, a entire grill tape, which fans definitely appreciated, dropping the album Good Movie, which did have a tour as well. He opened for Don Toliver for his tour, but ever since then, Pierre wouldn't drop a project. On a positive note, Trippie and Pierre are cool again, and also Pierre is on good terms with Opium, hopefully, as he actually did last year produce a track for Homicide Gang, and he is cool with Ken Carson again. But it clearly seems like Carti moved on from Pierre for his new album Iron Music, as he is working with other producers like Filthy, OJ, KP Beats, and is just overall evolving his sound. Obviously going further away from that Cash Carti sound. But Pierre would also be working on building his label, that being Sauce House Records under Interscope, but a lot of the artists signed to this label were saying that they weren't getting enough push, with Chavo saying this and then leaving. And I guess that could be because Pierre isn't that big to have his own label as a, like, you know, artist. I mean, obviously Pierre is a huge name as a producer, but if you look at him as an artist compared to Travis and Carti, who have their own labels, obviously they are way bigger artists and it's easier for them to push out their own artists that they obviously signed. His next album, Made in Paris, would be Teased, which was supposed to drop last spring. He did tease the cover on Christmas, but has yet to announce a release date or a, like, you know, track list. It is supposed to drop this spring, and Pierre has been saying that, yo, he's like cooking on it. Overall, Pierre just doesn't have that push that he used to. Like, there actually was a time back then where every time Pierre did produce a song, it was a instant hit. But time has gone by, music has evolved, and he isn't working with as many artists as he used to. But Pierre still has a massive fan base, and I feel like his impact and his run that he did have back in 2017 to like 2019 definitely needs to be talked about more. Thank y'all for watching. Love y'all. We out. Bye.